Roy Watson Slusher was born on May 19, 1905 in Missouri, a year the St. Louis Cardinals won barely a third of their games. President Theodore Roosevelt presided over the birth of the conservation movement, and Henry Ford and his son Edsel rode in their Model F. When Roy was 5, his mother became ill and was hospitalized, so Roy's father Watson took Roy and his brother to live with family friends in Colorado. In the years that followed, Roy moved back and forth between Missouri and Colorado. By the 1930s, Roy resided in Denver and worked at a service station. He bought a lot across the alley from the service station and eventually bought other lots until he owned a rather large area in Denver by the early 1940s. It was during this time that he came to know a young woman named Nora Luella Graham. Nora was working as a bookkeeper, and in those days many people shared a ride to work each day, which Roy and Nora did for 2 years, building a close friendship, before Roy moved away from Denver to pursue business interests elsewhere.
Roy Slusher was a trailblazer in many ways. He was an entrepreneur. He was also a person who was a wildcatter in the oil fields in Texas, and frankly was fairly successful with it. And so he wasn't afraid to do things that might be different for other folks.
Nora stayed in Denver for the next 20 years, continuing her work in accounting, never marrying. Then one day she answered the telephone and was asked, "Nora, do you know who this is?" She replied, "Well, yes, you're Roy Slusher." To his amazement, she had remembered him after all the years apart. Roy told Nora that his wife had passed away, and he had driven from Texas to Denver to find her. He proceeded to ask her to dinner that night, and she accepted.
And we had a wonderful time. We danced and just had a great time.
The love story that unfolded that fateful evening in Denver lasted every minute of their remaining 21 years together. Roy and Nora eventually moved back to Southwest Missouri, settling in one of the most beautiful spots in all the Ozarks. Roy passed away in 1987, leaving a grieving but loving companion who continued to thank God every day for the incredible blessing that came into her life.
Numerous times, as we all have, we heard her stories about the love life and how she and Roy met. That was probably the one thing she liked to talk about most.
The Roy W. Slusher Foundation is the legacy of a man who combined extraordinary vision and leadership qualities with a genuine concern for human well-being. It was the wish of Roy and Nora Slusher that a major portion of their wealth be used to give others an opportunity to advance their capabilities. Since its inception in 1988, the Roy W. Slusher Charitable Foundation has distributed over $6 million from nonprofit organizations in Southwest Missouri to groups elsewhere in the world.
She said, "Roy, I don't have the need for all this money. Let's do something to make a difference in a lot of kids' lives." And so I think that for sure, children is her heart, one in her heart, but I think also just all those organizations that are out there doing great things.
The foundation has taken an interest in the plight of many Taney County public schools, including Bradleyville.
So there's some kids that actually don't have the money to eat, and their parents are too proud to turn in the free and reduced lunch for them. So we have to seek ways of paying for that. The Slusher Fund helps us with that too.
Through the leadership of Superintendent Joe Combs and his dedicated staff of teachers, Bradleyville has become fully accredited and has seen many of its students go on to higher education. The Slusher Foundation has provided scholarships to Bradleyville graduates to attend OTC in Springfield. After learning that many Bradleyville and Taneyville students come to school without adequate clothing, the foundation made sure that 400 students, from kindergartners to high school seniors, received a new pair of shoes.
Well, after all, what is more important than young children growing up? And I tell you, I've always loved children. Wasn't fortunate enough to have any, but I certainly do love them.
The program has become widely popular as students delight in unwrapping the new shoes, with the approving eyes of Santa looking on. Another Slusher Foundation success story that garnered significant regional press coverage is the story of Bradleyville teacher Lisa Tilley. Here's a video clip courtesy of Ozarks Technical Community College.
Lisa was in her senior year in high school when her mother and stepfather were arrested for drug possession. Her brother and sister were taken into foster care. Her dream of going to college was in jeopardy. Without a home, let alone the money for classes, it was unlikely. Until one day, while walking down the hall, Lisa received the news.
I will never forget it. I was walking down the hall with my best friend, and Mr. Joe Combs, our superintendent, called me and her both into his office and said, you're getting the Slusher Scholarship. And I just, thought, wow, that's amazing. And I had no idea what it was.
The Slusher Foundation was her salvation and provided her a scholarship. Completing a degree at OTC and one at Drury in teaching, Lisa had offers to be a teacher in many area school districts. But she knew there was only one she wanted to teach at, Bradleyville. And in her first year, she is already making a mark.
It shows us that she's really dedicated to Bradleyville School and that she works hard just to teach us and that she really loves us.
In addition to OTC scholarships for many Southwest Missouri students, the foundation has also made it possible for some high school graduates to attend College of the Ozarks, providing grants that are used for books and educational supplies. College of the Ozarks was greatly admired by Mrs. Slusher for its philosophy of helping young men and women of high moral character but limited financial resources attend college. For years, College of the Ozarks has reached out to low-income youth in the Branson area during the summer months and invited them to attend Camp Lookout at no charge to their families. Once Mrs. Slusher learned about this program, she jumped on board, agreeing to sponsor one of their cabins. The scope of Slusher Foundation giving extends across the globe to the Bethel Mission in Kolar Gold Fields, India, a rundown ex-gold mining town with high unemployment and poverty rates. The Reverend Frank Godberg leads 3 Christian churches with more than 2,500 members in an area dominated by Hinduism and Buddhism. Christians are mostly lower caste people and generally classified as untouchables. Bethel Mission serves poor children, orphans, widows, and lepers. They offer free medical clinics and financial support for youth wishing to achieve higher education. The Slusher Foundation has installed water wells, bringing precious fresh water to an area with very limited resources, along with new drainage and toilet facilities that further enhance the quality of hygiene for children who come from poor conditions.
He went about doing good, wanting no recognition. I think that was Roy Slusher all the way through. He didn't want his name put with things, acclaims. He didn't want plaques. He didn't want publicity at all. But he and Nora were both of that same, this is what moved their life. And all of this is really them together. It's not just Roy. She would put Roy out in the front, but it was really both of them. She was the one who motivated him to do much of what he did. In moving in this direction. I think it's what he wanted to do, but she pushed him. She saw that it got done.